Is this a must-win for the Philadelphia Eagles? Will Cain.
I'm going to tell you this. It's a must-win for all of them, Stephen A., including the Eagles. It's a must-win for the Vikings, the Eagles, for Carson, for Kirk Cousins. But here's the thing. Let's focus in on the Eagles. If they lose this game, they are pushing the panic button in Philadelphia. And I'm not telling you that because I want it to happen. It began to happen last week, Max. There were massive questions and legitimate ones about every aspect of that Eagles team, from their offensive philosophy, from their offensive line, to their defense, to their secondary. And if that perpetuates, if that keeps going this weekend, the Eagles are going to be facing ugly questions. They're going to be looking in the mirror, Max, and asking questions like this. First of all, what happened to our championship-level defense? One that is now, what are they, giving up the 18th most passing yards in the league? How about the best offensive line in the NFL? There's only one worse right now, giving up more quarterback hits, more sacks, and that's the Houston Texans. The Eagles are losing on all the places that we thought they were great. Factor this in, take out John DeFilippo, take out Frank Wright. Now you have a team averaging 20 points a game, again putting them 26th in the league, 6 from the bottom. And finally, Max, this question. Lane Johnson, like so many of the Eagles, told us there was a new way of creating dynasties. There's a new way to win. Forget that old, stodgy, unfun Patriots way. It's resulted in 5 Super Bowls. We got a new way in Philadelphia. That new way will be out of the gates at 2-3. It will be panic button time in Philadelphia. They have to beat the Vikings this weekend.
Go ahead, Max.
Wrong. It wouldn't be panic time in Philadelphia, and it is a must-win game, but only for Minnesota, who was many people's preseason favorites overall. I mean, the Rams were a hot pick, but so were the Vikings, because we saw how good they were last year, both sides of the ball. That offensive line was up and down a couple years ago, up last year, when Case Keenum shows up, go figure. And then, how are they going to play this year? People thought maybe they can continue last year's excellent play. The defense everyone knows about, Mike Zimmer's defense. And they have weapons all over the field, and it upgraded a quarterback. They got to make a move, so it's must-win for them. They can't just come out of the gate as among the worst records in football after Week 5.
Agreed. What about the Eagles?
Eagles, it is not must-win for, Will. First of all, I told you, Eagles fans should be concerned about a slow start. That was obvious. You would hope that they would be 2-2 by the time Wentz got back. In fact, he got back a week earlier or so than we thought, and lo and behold, they're 2-2. You knew Wentz wasn't going to hit the ground running, so to speak. It's going to take him a couple games to get his feet wet. That's what's happening now. He was going through his reads very slowly because he just got back. The line play has been subpar, both sides of the ball. Jason Peters' hamstring, which should get better. Lane Johnson got beaten, but he's a good offensive lineman, but he had a bad game. And
Max,
on the defensive side of the ball, guys haven't rounded into shape yet.
Max, it sounds like you're making a case for Will as opposed to yourself.
No, that was also part of what was predictable, the Super Bowl hangover. The issue is this for the Eagles. Everything I just mentioned is going to naturally resolve itself. We know that they're a very talented team. Now, it may not happen till the middle or second third of the season, or third, the last third of the season. But it's not like they're in a division where anyone's going to run away. The NFC East is not strong. Do you think Washington's going into New Orleans and winning this week?
Here's the problem.
Because if you don't, then it's 3-2 versus 2-3.
Hold on, Will. Here's the problem with your argument, Max, because you're talking about how competitive the NFC East is. Well, if the NFC East is so competitive, how do you know all of those issues will naturally resolve itself? That doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen when you consider the level of competition that inherently exists within the NFC East.
No,
they could end up nosediving because of the very points you made.
No, I only think there's one very good team, intrinsically excellent team in the NFC East. That's the Eagles. The Washington's okay, guys. They're not world beaters. The Cowboys are generic. The Giants are no good.
That's what I'm saying.
So if Washington winds up 3-2, highly likely after this weekend, and let's say the Eagles wind up 2-3, you think the season's over? And by the way, panic point. Will, there's not going to be panic in Philadelphia. The Eagles just bought equity with a Super Bowl win that has never before existed in that town.
Okay, listen. Panic isn't just about where you sit in the standings. It's about what you start to question about yourself. And you have acknowledged in this conversation that the Eagles have questions at every level of their team. Most importantly, on the levels that they succeeded last year. Offensive line play, defensive play. The people that engineered this last year, 2 of them, very important figures, Reich and DiFilippo, no longer there. Questions about whether or not they've invented some new philosophy of creating dynasties. All of that is what you start to look in the mirror and go, oh my God, are we who we thought we were? Now, I hear Stephen A. finally, by the way, taking a side and being some kind of arbiter here, some judge here, pushing you on this, but you're acknowledging all my... Yeah,
it's
well...
the top of the show. What are you talking about? We just started.
I didn't hear you on the first one.
Go ahead.
No,
Max,
you guys are both missing the point.
No, I haven't finished yet. That's how you always miss the point because you don't let me finish.
That's right.
Here's the thing, Max. It's a dogfight in this division, it's because nobody's running away with it, okay? The Redskins, the Cowboys, they'll be there. They're 9-7 type teams. They're 10-6 type teams. That's what the Eagles will be on pace for, Max, at 2-3. That's what they are. And by the way, here's the real hole in your argument. You say the Eagles are talented, so this will naturally work itself out. I just want to ask you a couple quick questions. Don't worry, you'll be able to get out of the box canyon I run you into here. Are the Vikings talented?
Yep.
Okay, but you call that a must-win game for them. You don't say their problems will be solved naturally. Are the Falcons talented?
Wait a minute.
But one at a time.
No.
The
Vikings and the Falcons will have one of the rest. They'll be at the bottom of football with those records. That's not the case for the Eagles.
Max, he asked you to answer the question, and then he said he's going to come back to you.
I'm gonna let you
go ahead with your second question.
Are the Falcons talented?
Yes.
Are the Giants talented?
Yes.
All right, so what's interesting is we've got several talented teams. I didn't make any argument about the standings. You did. You said all those problems, offensive line, defense, Carson Wentz, will naturally work themselves out. And you said because the Eagles are so talented. My point to you is there's a lot of talented teams, Max. And in fact, in this very conversation, you're not offering that same excuse to the Vikings. You're not saying the Vikings will naturally work themselves out.
I understand the point. The reason I'm interrupting is because you're intentionally mischaracterizing my point, or else you don't understand it. Once again,